And thank you for joining me tonight on a really important and crucial conversation this evening. We're going to be talking about the state of mental health and education this evening. And we have a number of panelists with us, and we're going to be having a ebb and flow conversation this evening. But before we start, I like to provide some sobering facts regarding mental health and our students. From 1999 through 2015, 1,309 children between the ages of 5 and 12 took their own lives in the United States. Now remember, that's 5 years old to 12. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says that this means that one child under 13 died of suicide nearly every 5 days on average over those 17 years. The frequency here was higher from 2013 to 2015, once to indicate that it was once every 3.4 days. And this was thanks to a 54% spike in suicides between the 11 and 12-year-olds compared to 3 years prior. Now, this jives with the CDC's announcement of a rise in suicide rates in the ages from 10 to 14, and from 2009 to 2017, depression surged 69% among 16 to 17-year-olds. The increases were more pronounced among girls and young women. By 2017, 1 out of 5 12 to 17-year-old girls had experienced major depression. This is a history prior to the pandemic that we've recently experienced. Now, since the pandemic began, children and adolescents have had higher rates of anxiety, depression, stress, and even more specific issues such as addictive internet behaviors. Now, according to the Federal Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, emergency department visits, suspected suicide attempts among adolescents jumped 31% in 2020. Now, compared with 2019. In February and March of 2020, emergency room department visits for suspected suicide attempts were 51% higher among girls aged 12 to 17 than during the same period in 2019. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported that from April through October 2020, the proportion of children between ages of 5 and 11 visiting the emergency room because of a mental health crisis climbed 24% compared to the same period of time in 2019. Among 12 to 17-year-olds, the number increased by 31%. The effects of the pandemic on students are likely to be felt for years to come, experts say. The issues that there could be a long delay, and sometimes somebody may react to an event that happened a year or two or even 10 years ago with some kind of trauma-related response or even depression or suicide. You know, we don't know what the full impact is of this crisis, or the reasons why it's so important for schools to be prepared to deal with this is very important. And it's going to be a very comprehensive and long-term issue. A wide majority of all students reported that they're experiencing more problems now than they did in before January of 2020, and before this pandemic began. But 77% of the Black and Latino students report more struggles, and at least 9% points higher than the percentage of white or Asian students who said the same. Low income and LGBTQ students were also significantly more likely to report experiencing more problems in the wake of the pandemic. And to top this off, an amendment was just filed by a sponsor of the Don't Say Gay to make it even more dangerous for vulnerable kids, with a state mandated outing of the LGBT students to parents, specifically in cases of abuse, abandonment, and neglect. Now, this will have a devastating consequence for our youth. Students, particularly in low income, were also significantly less likely to report that their school offered mental health programs like counseling than their counterparts did. And they were more likely to think that mental health services were no longer available after the pandemic. Now, which leads us for our conversation this evening. I want to thank you all for joining me tonight with this most critical and crucial conversation regarding the state of education and mental health. If we can go around and have everyone introduce themselves so our listening audience knows who's in our conversation and what your role is in the education system. So can we start with Pamela, please? You're on mute.
I was trying very hard not to do that. I am Pamela Perks. I work at Barrington Middle School, and I am a paraprofessional in our access classrooms, which are our ESE kids, our most vulnerable and high needs. And this definitely is something that behaviors and stuff we're seeing with our nonverbal or autistic students, definitely. But we do have some excellent counselors, but obviously everybody's short-staffed, so it's very relevant.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. And Laura?
Hello, I'm Laura Hottenstein. I'm a middle school counselor over at Rogers. Also a member of the HISCA board, which is the Hillsborough School Counseling Association board. And I would say all of that to pretty much be true at my school as well. And I can get more into those numbers later, but I definitely see the same kind of things at my school as well.
Thank you. And April?
Good evening, everyone. I am a public school teacher of 24 years here in Hillsborough County. I work over at Jennings Middle School as a math teacher. I am also one of the founders of the Sunshine Education Coalition, where we're a grassroots organization trying to eradicate and eliminate the school-to-prison pipeline. One of the also key areas of concerns that is directly in alignment and correlate with what we're speaking about tonight as it relates to mental health.
Thank you so much. And Caitlin?
It's Keaton.
Keaton, okay.
Hi, I'm Keaton Horton. I'm a student at Leonard High School, and I am a president of our school's GSA club. So I've, been a person that lots of people have come to talk to about certain mental health issues.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. And Kato? You're on mute, Keita.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. I apologize. Good evening, Member Perez. How are you?
Well, thank you.
All right.
Please.
Awesome. So I'm about 11-year educator, ESE math teacher, working primarily with access points students at Middleton Magnet High School. Go Tigers. And yes, I think that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to ask a question, and I just want an ebb and flow conversation. If you just, start talking, and we just have a conversation, because that's how I would like, us to just talk tonight. You could unmute yourselves, and then we'll just start talking. Many students say that there is at least one adult at the school that they could talk to if they're feeling upset or stressed. How do you assess the number of students that need or require mental health assistance at this time in your schools? And what additional supports are you still in need of to support your students?
Okay. I can go first. It's kind of built into my job title because I'm a school counselor. So I have a caseload of about 400 students. And we are fully staffed on our counselor end, which is a blessing. But what we really need, we have 30 counselor vacancies in the district right now, at least. And those are just the ones that are about listed, which leaves, do the math of 30 vacancies and about a caseload of 400. So I think the main thing is that we need more people that are willing to listen, and we need more support. We have resources, but for example, with counseling services, our face-to-face counseling services are all filled up right now at this point. And so the mental health resources that I do have on campus, unless it's us counselors or a school psychologist there twice a week, or our social worker who's doing IEP counseling and all the other stuff, we almost need more community resources, is what I would add.
Miss Laura, may I ask you a question? Can you clarify what face-to-face services, when you mentioned that they're all filled up, so that those that are in the outside of schools know what that means? Because I know what it means, but I know most don't understand what that means.
Yeah, thank you. So what I mean is that so in our county, we have an opportunity to refer our students for mental health services through a therapist out in the community. And we've been very blessed with a system that kind of works for that. And when I say face-to-face, I mean actual in-person therapy. And we have somebody who comes on our campus 3 days a week, and she is full. We also have a PACE outreach program, which is also available on our campus for 5 days a week, which is, again, face-to-face, in-person therapy. Otherwise, it's mostly telehealth, and some of our students don't respond as much to telehealth as they do in person. So that's the biggest difference. Thank you, April, because I do that shorthand a lot.
So if I can ask, so if you're not available and the students are going to different, because they're saying that there's different adults that they could speak to, how do you find out if the students need help? Do the adults come to you? Do they keep it to themselves? Or, do they say, okay, yeah, you're going to be fine, and the student goes away, and, we never know. So, and you could be overwhelmed because you're just one person. So what is it that you need to continue those supports for those students? I'm taking notes, by the way, because I do want to continue, providing what you need for our students
Yeah.
and for your teachers, believe it.
I think, our teachers are incredibly overwhelmed, right? And so are we. And as counselors, a lot of times we're not available because we are in the lunchroom or we're playing admin or whatever role they would like us to play. But a lot of the teachers do refer my kids, but some do keep it to themselves. But we do have a very strict protocol when it comes to anything that has to do with crisis. So any kind of suicidal ideation has to come to us immediately, and they're pretty good about that. But some of the other issues, you know what, if the kid is talking to a teacher, and they're not comfortable coming to me, if they are talking to somebody and having that conversation, then I'm glad they're going to somebody. But if they need more services, a lot of times they'll come to me and ask me for, what do you think and stuff. But again, it goes back to not all the schools run the same. I'm on a middle school level, not a high school level. High schools are overwhelmed with graduation. They're in programming, they're in everything else. And I used to work actually at Leonard a number of years ago. And it's hard to reach all of them. And I don't know what the answer exactly is, but I know that if we continue to make ourselves more accessible, maybe that's the answer. But it is one of those things. I feel like maybe a better knowledge on how to refer kids out and to just sit and listen and know when to do that. I think that's going to be the key, because not all teachers know if somebody is in need of actual therapy. And again, I'm just grateful when a kid reaches out to anybody. So.
Yeah, because those stats are alarming, because the ages are in middle school. The 11-year-olds to 12, 13, 14 are in middle school, who are really facing those crises right now that we really need to. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Karen.
No, you're good. You're good. Because those are your age groups right there.
It is. And I have seen a significant rise in the amount of suicide assessments I've done, especially even since December. I've probably done more since December than I have previously. So it's hard. I mean, it's not like everybody's getting bigger at it or anything like that, but it is more of suicide assessments. And every single time these students are hurting, and those are the ones that we know about. There's a lot of students not talking, they're not talking. So that's another piece.
Thank you so much. Pamela?
Okay, so the problem that we have, well, I'm talking from personal experiences, we have a lot of nonverbal children who use iPad devices to talk. Now, unless you have a relationship with them where you can get them to use the device, you're not going to be able to even find out if they're feeling sick or if they're mentally fragile. There's no way of doing it unless you have a rapport with them. And the problem that, of course, we have, like everybody has, we are chronically short on staff. Now, ESE is one area where we have trouble recruiting good paras. There are wonderful paras, but recruiting a good para and keeping a good para, it's very hard. And it takes a very particular type of person. So I'm seeing behaviors which could be a result going back to when we were in lockdown and we were doing online schooling, which with nonverbal kids, pretty hard to do, but we did keep it together. Our answer is, if we're going to provide these students with a means to communicate, we have to have the people that they talk to. And if you're on a skeleton staff, teachers are already overwhelmed with everything they have to do for IEPs, etc. And I'm sure the other gentleman from ESE will concur that the paperwork involved in being an ESE teacher is horrendous. And it falls on the paras to pick all the pieces up, support the teacher, build relationships with the student and the parents, because ultimately the parents are the ones that are going to tell you he's had a bad day or he had a bad weekend. And then the behaviors that we're seeing in students that never maybe experienced or exhibited these behaviors, you can't quite pick exactly what it is that's that's causing this. And the counselors can come in, or the psychologist can come in, but unless it can communicate with people that they're comfortable with and understand how the device works to know what to ask, you're going to miss these kids. And they're the ones where you're seeing the outbursts, the violent behavior. And the problem we also have is if you have a student that's having a meltdown that needs to be removed from the class, we have nobody to come and remove them. So the other students are experiencing this stress. The paras and the teachers are trying to deal with this situation. But if you don't have any support, I mean, one day they said it was the deputy. Well, that's not going to help anybody. So we need more people. We need good people. We're not going to get good people for $10 to $12 an hour, and that's what we're paid. And the communication that we have to have with the students is all dependent on trust. And more people, good people, retaining good people and building relationships is the only way you're going to change that.
Thank you. And you're correct. That's, especially in that area where you need that, you need a consistent person in the classroom. Mm-hmm. If you're always changing out, the professionals coming into the classroom, you don't build that rapport. You don't build that trust. And that's really important, especially for those students who are nonverbal. Thank you. April?
I'm up next. So I agree with everything that Laura and Miss Pamela are saying. Is there a fix to all of this where we're currently at right now? I just don't see it. But I do know that we should be able to chip away at this huge monument of a crisis that our children definitely in middle school that are undergoing outside of any, responsibility of their own. It's just natural that, they are hit hard with this overall impact of COVID. And I just don't believe that the adults really took the time to allow them to be vocal on what they were experiencing or are experiencing. And, needless to say, many of them lost their parents. Many of them lost caregivers. Many of them lost relatives. And that is going to be more so in the African-American community and Hispanic community, or just a community, individuals that come in from poverty, even more so. So I think that we missed the mark in that area. So now it would be great if we took the time to have more opportunities for these children to be able to express themselves in a safe space to where they're having conversations around the commonalities that their peers too also experienced during the time with COVID, and also give space for them to understand that it's okay to be feeling the way that they are feeling. Now, the problem with that is, who are they going to share that information with? Because as we all know that we're very much short-staffed in Hillsborough County. And the guidance counselors, I throw my hats up to you all, because the number of students that you all are already challenged with meeting the needs for is already impossible. And, we all try to find the positive in it all, but we also have to be realists. Is one thing for certain is we need help. Stop asking the same question. Provide. We know we need the help. That is redundant for us to keep coming to the same scenario saying what's needed. We need help. And until we provide the help, we're just spinning our wheels. So therefore, it's clear. Miss Laura needs help. She needs help in her space. The teachers are not equipped to do it. We're short-staffed. What is the solution to that? Because other than just us saying, we know it, we understand it, we empathize with it, we show compassion, all of those things are useless at this moment because our children are struggling. They are obviously reaching a place of suicide, whether they act on it or not. Just the thought that they're thinking about it is enough. It's enough. So the relationships are necessary on the campus with teachers or any person that they feel comfortable with to go and speak to it about. But again, that a lot of that might be in passing. I'll get to you in a moment, sweetheart. I'm going to let a guidance counselor know. Unless it's a moment where the child said, I'm going to hurt myself. Really, we're all just trying to keep our own, what they say, put your mask on before putting a mask on someone else. That's where we're at. So all this funding that's being stated is in place for mental health. Where is it? Where is it? We want to see the results of it. We want to see the application of it, not the constant meeting about the meeting. Let's see something done. And you know how I am, Miss Karen. So I'm
Yes.
not attacking you. I'm
Yes.
attacking the situation.
Yeah.
So at my side, what's needed? More guidance counselors. How are we going to do that? Who knows? But that's what we need. Our psychologists, we don't have one right now. We don't have one.
Let me ask this question, because this is also why I wanted to come together. Is, as someone else asked this question, what can we do with what we have? I know. Yeah, and we don't have a lot. That's the problem. We don't have a lot to work with. It's like everybody from the Titanic all got in a lifeboat, and we're trying to save everybody in the lifeboat. That's the picture I always have when I think about mental health services, and we're trying to help everyone, because remember, the stats I provided go way back to 2015. It just did not start. This does not happen overnight. We've been dealing with this for years. What pushed everybody over the mountain was 2020 pandemic. It kind of pulled the covers off and really shone a light to mental health issues. That's what it really did. So, how can we, what is it that we can do with what we have? How can we use that to better the situation for our students?
I know I already spoke, but can I just add, what you can do is have the counselors be counselors, because we are covering classes. We're doing everything else. We're not in our offices because we are busy trying to make sure that lunches get covered and other things. There's other options here. You can also ask for volunteers from the community to help sit there and work lunches. I mean, there's things we can think of outside the box that are not doing what we're doing, but your counselors, when your counselors aren't available and your social workers are strained, and I mean, the fact that April doesn't have a school psychologist, I have one 2 times a week and I feel lucky. I don't, we're all stretched thin, and we have master's degrees. That's what we have to have in order to hold our jobs. And we still, not everybody receives a stipend for, it's not even a stipend because we don't receive a stipend. There was a bonus. But it's like counselors are not staying in their jobs because we are overtaxed. So start utilizing other things, and don't make us into administrators or test coordinators, and make us available to the kids. That's how you can use the current resources you have.
Right. I last Tuesday, or the board meeting before last, was able to get the superintendent to commit to getting the counselors and social workers to be able to, focus on their jobs. But, whether he does that or not, then that's, it's me holding his feet to the fire on that one, because we really need you helping. And it's just not you, Laura, as a counselor. We need everybody on board to help our kids, because they're our future. They're who we're going to depend on later. And Cato is next.
Yes. As far as high schools go, of course, the average high school is anywhere between 1.5 to 2 times the size of a middle school.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime you're dealing with numbers, there's even a greater need. We're pretty fortunate. We just got another counselor at our school, but one thing a lot of kids are dealing with is overcrowded classrooms. That itself can be a mental health stressor. So some classrooms I walk by have 35, 40, 45 students. And it is, it can be mentally stressful for any of our kids, let alone a child with disabilities who needs closer attention, so forth, to focus and function. where there's no space.
So Cato, I'm gonna take your statement and I'm gonna go into the next question with that. So
Okay.
how has the amount of what you've witnessed as far as the bullying, harassment, or the harshly teased kids from school, whether that is in person or on social media, on the internet or phone, increased? And how have you addressed this? And what would you like to see changed? Because when you have classes like Cato just described, that's going to happen. The bullying, the teasing, the harassment, and that's going to add to our students' issues with either mental wellness or their risk of suicide as well. So
Okay.
how has that changed? How have you as a panel addressed this or
Okay.
help
Well,
address it?
first, so the problem first, and then the solution. Of course, many
Mhm.
of our kids, as you mentioned, Member Perez, have lost their parents. They have also experienced a downturn in the economic viability of their household. So, a lot of their parents were working in the hospitality industry and in other industries, where jobs were cut. So now they might have had money to get a haircut once a month. Now they don't. They might be able to afford a haircut once every other month. Things like that. I apologize. My camera's going in and out. Are you guys able to hear me at least?
Yes, I can hear you. I don't know about everyone else, but I can hear you. You're
Okay.
fine.
Okay. Now there are some things that I've just kind of taken on being an ESE with my ESE training, and also having come to my school specifically to provide a lot of out of the box solutions, which is why I was hired at my school. One of the things the staff and I have done is create things like clothing closets. Okay, that's directly, addressing the fact that a lot of students again don't have money to buy adequate clothes. They get teased and bullied because they don't have shoes to wear. They got a hole in their shoes. They don't have any socks, so forth, so on. There's some students that we will send to our barber shop because we do have a school beauty school on our campus where you can get certification. We'll actually send them and they can get a free haircut. Um, you know, and again, just the way their faces light up. And man, Mr. Nord, Mrs. Groom said I can get a haircut on Tuesday, if I come by such and such a time. Those small things that we as adults don't necessarily think of, because $12 or $20 for a haircut is not a big deal to us. Those are things that are very impactful, especially with pretty much every kid being on TikTok. Other kids will talk about them, and a lot of times I can watch kids, just their whole demeanor change, because they've been looking at their cell phone throughout the entire class, which they're not supposed to do, but that's a whole nother conversation as far as enforcement of cell phones in the classroom, which is unevenly done throughout our county. Um, but I can watch their whole face change because, one, many of them until last semester were not in any type of school since spring break 2019, right? Or yes, spring break 2019, if I'm correct. So their social skills were already poor. Okay, and they've only deteriorated. So one thing that we do as an ESE staff at my school, dealing with access points, curriculum youth, and other youth with disabilities, is we offer a course called Unique Skills. Okay, where we teach them daily. We teach them life skills, job prep skills, social skills. How to. One of the things I'm focusing on right now, I apologize for taking a while, Member Perez, is I'm focusing on social media. How do we live our life in the age of social media and still function as happy, successful youth without letting it become a distraction? How do we use it as a tool instead of a distraction? So there's just a few of the ideas. I hope I addressed the question. Member Perez, those are the few of the concrete ideas that we're doing at my school that seem to be working, but we've got a long way to go.
Yes, absolutely. April, you wanted to add to what Cato was saying?
Just wanted to briefly add that what Cato shared about the students needing those things that some of us find, easily resourceful, like the food pantries, the clothing, the haircuts. Those are all things that many of our youth, are in high demands. And if we are capable of creating community partners that are willing to assist in those areas, because outside of school, they have lives that, continue on and go on. So that, identifying barbershops that are capable of extending those possibilities of providing so many haircuts. We know we're all in a place where survival mode is realistic. So it was just my thoughts, to add that to the possibilities of our district, creating those community partners, knowing that we have the cosmetology and barber programs, inviting those barbers in and those cosmetologies in, and creating those types of partnerships as well. Just a thought.
No, that's fantastic. And Keaton?
As a student and someone who kind of provides a safe space for certain group of students, I can say that there has been kind of a climb in terms of targeted, comments, direct, personalized. Yeah, no, target is the right word. Bullying. And it could be just anything from being made to feel uncomfortable around a certain group of students, or someone ignoring your request, to just be moved out of a class from a student that makes you feel uncomfortable. It kind of gets put on them to fix it. If someone is causing a problem with them, it relies on the student to come to someone about it instead of someone seeing it and then taking action. And I mean, I understand that, you don't want to step in where maybe a student doesn't want help, but if it gets to the situation where they need to be in a different classroom, then not everyone is willing to step up and ask for that change to be made.
Thank you. That's really important, in keeping our students' mental wellness, especially if you're in the classroom all day long with somebody who you're feeling comfortable with. You shouldn't have to be. You shouldn't have to be feeling uncomfortable, and especially if you've asked to be moved. Thank you. And Laura, you mentioned about the clothes. I know, I also work for the VA, and the VA provides, the veterans, they get these vouchers for the bus, for haircuts, for clothing, so we should be able to do that for our students as well, and like like April was saying, form that community partnership, beyond the partners we already have. Is come to the table and talk about, have a really transparent conversation about what's really happening today, in our schools. You're on mute, Laura.
Sorry, I was typing to April at the same time. But I mean, honestly, I hadn't thought about washing clothes until I started working in schools where my students needed it. I mean, it's something that we don't even think of, but there's got to be more community partnerships. I think that when people are like, but how can I help? How can I help? If you can help and you don't work in a school, contact the school and ask where we need help. Because we could use mentors. We could use community partnerships on clothing, food delivery. We have a food pantry at my school, and my social worker does a lot of the deliveries, and we could always use more people helping. So yes, I would say community partnerships. If anybody wants to step in, call a school, because we're so busy we may not ask. And so that's the key with that. But I will add with what Kaden said was very powerful. I mean, there's a lot that's laid on students and students' responsibility because the adults are overwhelmed, and it's unfortunate, actually.
Keaton, you had something to add?
Yes, I was going to say that it is true. Teachers are, of course, incredibly overworked. I know 3 of my teachers that, so one of them, on top of covering a class during their planning period, also covers ISS. One of them does lunch duty. One of them does hall room duty. And then one of them does both tutoring after school and before school help. And that is on top of, all those other things I just listed. I mean, we're losing teachers because of COVID. No one wants to be a teacher right now, so there aren't many new hires to go into. So everyone is kind of stretched thin at this point, and I think it's showing.
I'm gonna go with what you just mentioned about everybody stretched in. So everybody on the panel, compared to before the pandemic, with students that you see or touch, what do you feel is the difference in the general state of mind during in-person class, and how do you feel this has affected our students' learning? What do you need in order to get back to the learning pre-pandemic, and do you feel we will ever get there?
I think that particularly our students, the learning, as much as we could continue with it, you can't. If you haven't got the kids in the classroom, you can't have the routines that they need. For example, the manipulatives that they need, and parents do a great job. But again, these parents are worn down too. And I would like to think that we could get back to where we were, but I can't see how if we don't have enough staff, and we haven't got the relationships with the kids to enable them to learn, then I can't see how we're going to do it with the 3 years that we have them in middle school before we have to send them off to high school.
Everybody could jump on in and talk about it.
Go ahead, April, because I'm not in the classroom. Go ahead.
I definitely agree with Pamela. Unfortunately, our new normal is where we are at today. And in person is the most impactful way to reach our youth, and most definitely our most vulnerable youth. And we have to be capable of identifying a new way of work, but with reality. Right now, we're not operating out of reality because we're stretched so thin. I believe that if we were not in a position where we're covering classes on average 2 to 3 times a week, if we were not having to pull students during our lunchtime in efforts to make up for the loss that they had during the pandemic time, and also prior to them even COVID even being an issue, then I feel that we would have identified some sense of more normalcy that would have been more impactful for our students, to where we all wouldn't just seem like we're scrambling. Well, let me not speak for everyone else. I feel like I'm scrambling on a day-to-day basis. And it's kind of hard to pick up the pieces, every day when you're leaving, to say, did I actually give my students 100%? Knowing that with my own children, I have to also make sure that they're not getting any lost. They're not getting lost in their learning due to not having their core teachers in place. So it's a lot of moving pieces when it comes to the teacher that's being responsible for, at least if you're elementary, between 25 to 40, middle school 100 to 135, and then when high school, from what I'm told, those numbers could be up to like 150, 160. It is very challenging to walk away every day saying, did I give my best and didn't meet the needs of the students with us moving around so much. But I will say that it's gotten better because we're just we're learning how to survive in survival mode. I'll leave it at that.
I mean, I'm sorry, that was awesome. We are surviving in survival mode for sure. And I feel it too. I mean, full disclosure, this weekend could not have come early enough because I myself am pretty much burning out. But, surviving, but I stick in. But what I will say is that I think some things have gotten better. I mean, my personal school has, the fights have gone down significantly at the beginning of the year. I think everybody was just so, I don't know how to explain it. Just there was a lot of anger that was just kind of boiling over. And I think it came out in the way that the kids could. But I don't know, that's off point. I would say that it's getting better. I don't know if going pre-pandemic really would have made that much of a difference. What I do see is that my students I had well over 100 fail a core class the first quarter, and now we've cut that in half. But I'm still at a significant amount of kids, and that's twice what I would see on a normal year. So this is just, my end is not a classroom teacher. I don't pretend to be one. But I do add that it's going to be one of those things that we're all surviving, and a lot of grace on the part of everybody has to be in place for us to move forward. And there are certain aspects pre-pandemic I don't want back necessarily. So that's my thought on it.
So do you feel you're experiencing problems in school more now that you did prior to January 2020? And which student population do you feel is affected more? And how and why? And how can we all support these students?
For me, do I see a difference? Most definitely, without question. And for me, I try to look at through a lens as an educator that it's all students, but there's an emphasis on the African American boy that I think that with so many other barriers that are already in place, and the Hispanic boy as well, that they just kind of get lost in the shuffle until it becomes a place of their inappropriate behaviors just spiral to a place that is uncontrollable. And I don't mean a sense of trying to control a child to where they are. I don't want to get too far into that, but I just think that they need a place to where they can share how they're feeling. I always say that there's not enough spaces for the children to be able to express how they're feeling. Now, I will say at my school site, we have a program called 7 Mindsets, and it has been working tremendously. It has been. And we also have a component of the Men of Vision at our site, and that too has been working well. But I do know that we're not capable of reaching the masses because it's only one teacher that's doing Men of Vision. All teachers across the campus are doing 7 Mindsets. But again, are they in a space where they feel that they can have those transparent conversations because there are other children in the room that are experiencing some of the same barriers that they're experiencing? Not so much. So I will say that it's always going to be the boys for me because there's not already enough males on a campus for them to be able to connect with. And then there's definitely a big reduction when it comes to African-American or Hispanic male on the campus that's in a teacher role. So I just feel that, they need to be loved on a little bit more, and not to take away from any other child, because that's never my intentions. Those words of mine are sometimes misconstrued that way because I always take the approach of all students, but there are some that needs a little bit more in efforts to level that playing field so that they're capable of catching up in different areas academically, social emotionally, and so on and so forth. But I won't ramble, so that's my thoughts on it.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
I agree, April. I think that the African American boys are they are they're the group that I love to get the attention for. We do, but you were talking about the staff members. We have 2 to 3 young Black educators that the kids really have grown under, and that weren't necessarily there previously. They were new hires this year, and my boys go to them and they have those conversations, and it's nice for them to be able to see this, because I can talk to them, but I mean, I'm not, I'm white woman here, like, and I love them to pieces and I have this good relationship, but they're the ones I worry about, and our Hispanic males. I worry about them because I feel like they do get lost in the shuffle, and they are kind of categorized, and they're kind of boxed into this area that I don't feel is going to be successful to anybody or the community as a whole in the long run. So.
Keaton or Pamela or Cato, anyone have any more to add to that?
My concern working in middle school is they've transitioned from elementary school and now they're in middle school, and you get them for 3 years. My concern is across the board. I mean, not just my department. I work in the lunchroom every day. I am very concerned about our 6th and 7th graders when they go to high school, when things are even more stressful, where they probably go to schools where there are 2,000-3,000 other students, and I'm really worried about what's going to happen when those particular grade levels get to high school. I'm not sure this is something we can fix before then.
That's why I'm hoping that I am taking notes, everyone. I'm writing because I just feel that a change needs to happen, and I think the floodgates were open, when the pandemic happened and our students came back to school. It just showed the true need of our students and their mental wellness, and we just need to get on board. I know I do. But one of the other questions I had is for you as staff. What do you need from me? What do you need from this district to support you? You support our students on a daily basis, and thank God for you, and God bless you for what you do. I know I appreciate you. But what do you need from us to support you, to be there for you? Talk to me about what you need.
I'll be more than happy to take this question first, y'all. Listen, so I won't make this a griping session, just a statement of facts. In my unique situation, I have, during the pandemic, when we had the majority of our access points students at home doing e-learning, okay, we had a total of 5 paraprofessionals. And I absolutely love everything you all do, Miss Pamela. Now that we have all of the returning students that were already in our Access Points program, plus new students, all of a sudden we've dropped to 3 paraprofessionals. So we're still down 2, dealing with students that are in wheelchairs, students that need to be fed, toileted, students that are almost in a one-on-one situation. So if the school district wants to help us, especially in our larger high schools like mine, where we've saved, I know the school district has saved millions of dollars by collapsing those classes and giving us classes with the regular ed teachers classes with 40, 45 students. well, hey, let's take some of that savings wherever it has gone, and start putting more paraprofessionals in our ESE programs because we desperately need them. That's how you can directly help the mental health of the ESE staff, specifically at my school.
But
And
it
it's to the point,
sorry.
I apologize.
Sorry, no, carry on. Sorry, I thought you were done.
No, it's to the point that I'm strongly considering, resigning. As a 10-year teacher, because it's just too much going on. It's too much.
And I definitely am at the end of the line too. Yeah. I think what you said is entirely correct. Entirely correct. The problem is nobody wants these jobs because it is terribly paid. We can earn more at Wawa. We can earn more anywhere probably. And it is a very rewarding job, but you have to be completely dedicated to it. And I think when and I'm sure you can concur with this, when a teacher is out with COVID, for example, and there are no subs, everybody knows there's no subs, and nobody's taking access subs, it's down to the paraprofessionals. So
you're absolutely right.
We're teaching.
Yes.
And for a whopping $4.04.
Yeah.
So you have dedicated people in my department, dedicated people who have been paras for a long time, who can, because they're highly qualified paraprofessionals, can teach a class, doing it for 2 weeks maybe. You get burned out very quickly. We need more staff. We need the support from the school district. And people just need to come into an access classroom from time to time just to see what it is we do, because many, many teachers have no idea what we do. They all go, oh, you're so wonderful. You do a great job. We can do your job. That's fine. But you need to come and see what we actually do. The growth that we can achieve with our high needs students.
Absolutely. No para should have to work for less than $11 an hour. Not that that's a good standard, but I'm saying I have paras definitely working for a very low wage and are highly stressed out. And I do my best as their sort of supervising teacher to encourage them to, do some bonding activities, give them breaks when they need it, but they're stressed out definitely, even more so than us so-called regular teachers.
April, what do you think?
What do I need? I need for our guidance counselors to be afforded the opportunity to guide our students. And the only rate that can happen is if they don't have to do the massive coverage and the extensive time they take away during lunch duties, because that's when majority of our students would be posed to go see a guidance counselor, even if it's those 10 to 15 minutes. Imagine how many students can be seen by a guidance counselor in a 50-minute period. I feel that it should be realistic from the higher ups that the gains that we need are not going to be where we are going to get right now, because the students are still at a struggling point to where we're trying to fill in those gaps. And the only way that those gaps can be filled is with given time. I understand the accelerated curriculum or methodology they want us to use. But again, remember, these are children, many of them that have lost parents, lost structure in their home life. And to add to all of it right now, housing is an issue. So I think that we are being given the same responsibilities, if not more, in efforts to meet the needs, to meet what the Department of Education is requiring of all districts. But there has to be a place to where someone in leadership say enough is enough. If we're going to meet the needs of the children, we have to do it more so where we're not creating more trauma. So we need to answer this with being more realistic. Let me just leave it at that.
I'll add, Karen, since you're on mute.
I'm sorry. I
was
was,
like,
yeah.
she's on mute.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm writing notes while everybody's talking. Yeah, go ahead. And then I like Keaton
I would
give his
love to see what
perspective.
Keaton says.
Yeah,
I mean, from
his-
my aspect, we've already talked about what I would like to see, but also I am tired of everybody hijacking the term self-care and whacking people over the head with it when they don't know what the heck they're talking about. It drives me crazy because it is used now in everything. Oh, do self-care. I was like, Karen, as a mental health professional, we have talked about self-care as part of our programs.
Yeah.
But self-care was not go get a massage or go add, this is at the expense of you. It's setting boundaries, but also working somewhere where you feel like you are respected and you're heard. And I think that's missing. It's a lot of lip service, a lot of patting on the head. And it's hard to watch the people that I work with from including, we got to include bus drivers and student nutrition who kept our families fed throughout the pandemic. And they were just, it wasn't even really largely acknowledged, in my opinion, that they played this role. Custodial staff at Perez, everybody plays a role. ESOL Perez, who take on a lot as well. I just feel like everybody plays a role, and our admin is stretched thin as well. You have some admin where you should have more admin on campuses than that some of these campuses have. So it just, everybody's too stretched thin, and then they want us for answers. And I'm just thinking, start asking real questions instead of coming on campus and doing a dog and pony show and not really asking people what they really think. And I think that would go a long way. Everybody knows about the pay. It's just, I think we're also in a world where we do have we have the bills up that are just cutting us at the knees. Like every time we turn around, like, why would you stay in a profession where everything is getting harder to want to stay in the working conditions we have? So that's about what I would add. I don't know what the answer is. Something has got to change. But yeah, stop patting me on the head and telling me I have to do self-care.
Thank you. And Keaton, what do you see from a student's point of view that you feel would help your teachers or the administration of your school? You're on mute.
Thank you. I think along with the whole being able to teach, that's their job. That's what they're being paid for, and not being required to do all of these extra jobs, wear all of these other hats as well. I think that they need to know that what the regular job that they are signed up to do and what they're trained to do is enough. If we've come back from this into this new normal, and they're all of a sudden expected this higher level of asking from them, and I feel like there has been much more appreciation for that. Lots more has been added onto everyone's plate, and I don't think any more higher level of compensation or recognition has come from it. So I think them knowing, teachers being told that they're just being a teacher it's enough. They don't have to continue to find more ways to make themselves useful because someone's asking them to. And it's really they're appreciated. They're appreciated, even if they're not also covering lunch duties or doing extra tutoring after school.
Thank you so much. You know, for you to say that as a student, it's letting me know that you're just so observant of, you know, the teachers in front of you taking the lead, teaching you, you know, and I could multiply that you know times a few thousand students who are so considerate of their teachers, and you know making sure that their teachers are well. Thank you so much for that. We're getting towards the end of our conversation, and I would like for each of you to name 3 things you need from me to bring to the table to help you effectively do your work, engage with the students, and provide the mental health services to your schools in order to get your schools back on track.
Find a way of filling the 860 vacancies that we currently have. That's it in a nutshell. We need people so we can do our jobs.
And stop requiring more when we have so much less. We need the opportunity to be able to identify a sense of normalcy where we currently are at with what we have. So stop requiring more and more and more, and give us the opportunity to do the best we can with what we have, with where we're at. Because creating more trauma to us does not help the overall situation. And again, there are situations where district leadership is just really pounding on the 2 core classes that are responsible for the makeup of the FSA. And I understand that we're all seeking, you know, to demonstrate the students, you know, gaining, you know, new levels of learning. But we also have to keep in mind what our reality is. So beating me up and beating departments up is not helping the situation. We do not see anyone beating down doors to come to schools as teachers right now. We don't see it. So don't push the people out that are there. Don't keep pushing us out. And we understand the overall lack of pay increase. We get that. So definitely don't keep beating us up. Give us an opportunity to at least live in these spaces, what we call careers, and do the best we can without overbearing us with more when we evidently clearly have less.
Also, one thing we don't want to happen is have teachers fleeing to charter schools, community colleges, and other places that where the grass appears to be greener. Okay, because I mean that's a very real possibility with new charter schools popping up all the time. You know, and it is what it is. If you are given the chance to go somewhere else where your mental health is more at ease and you feel more valued, then you know it can be a temptation. We're only human. We want to do good work, but we want to feel like we're part of a family, and we want to feel like we have made a worthwhile investment in our time to study, to be certified, to be trained. You know, I can't tell you how many what you would call, I guess, continuing education credits I have. You know.
And how can we you know support you in your mental health, you know, your colleagues, you know, how can what do I need to do to bring that to the table?
I mean, stop treating us like we're not the professionals we are. I mean, respect comes a long way. And I mean, it is a lot of you have to do this, you have to do that. And it's not a lot of trust that we know what we're already doing. So support us. I mean, and support the supervisors that are doing well. Like our counseling supervisors up in the district are amazing. And they are working with 30 vacancies in this district, and they are stretched thin. And, you know, college and career counselors were cut on the high school level. So you added extra stress, and so was that supervisors. So you just added more to their plate too. I think it's tone deaf when people are telling me with a big smile on their face how, oh, we so appreciate what you do. And yet I don't see their faces on campus. I don't see them actually helping. And that would go a long way. And then stop expecting these kids to do something that was pre-pandemic. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. So our anxiety, I know the kids feed off of it. I mean, I've had students ask other adults, is Miss Sonstein okay? That is never okay. Like, you know, they shouldn't be asking if I'm okay. So I think it's really, that's a starter point. We could talk about pay. We could talk about all that. But I mean, I feel like that's been talked about. Respect the profession and respect us as professionals, and ask us, instead of making all these extra rules and telling me yet another computer program is going to do more than a teacher can do. And then, you know, then that's a starter point.
Go ahead, Q.
To add on what you were saying, Laura, I have a really cool teacher that I like to spend a lot of my time with, and we do something at the start of every class every day. We call it pros and cons. And basically it's 15 minutes and everyone can just sit up and speak out and talk, including the teacher, if they have anything that they want to share. And it is just, you have no idea how what's the word? Relieving it is to see that your teacher is also a human. You know? Sometimes it can be hard for students to look up at a figure of authority and not be intimidated. But having that, being able and feeling comfortable to share that vulnerability with a teacher really helps build that kind of connection. So I think that it would be a wonderful idea to have something like that, maybe just every so often, where teachers and students can talk like people and not like they're teachers and students with each other.
And that would mean the space is needed, built in for that to happen, to where teachers are given the autonomy to say, today, because in the community, there was a child that formerly went to this school that was murdered. Today, we need to not do anything else but allow our minds to reset, also while identifying what the issue was or what happened, and then be able to, move forward from that place, not just act as everything is as normal. So Keaton, we need more of you, honey. We do. I don't need to clone you over to my side of the world.
Keaton, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. That actually, I'm sorry, I teared up. I'm like, I'm such a counselor.
Me too.
But Kiwi, that's leadership, and I'm glad that you are here because it's good to hear from your viewpoint. So that's amazing, actually. That teacher is doing amazing stuff.
I so appreciate your voices this evening. I do. You just don't know how much you've added. And, I'm going to be taking all, your feedback. And, you might hear some of this on Tuesday night because I'm going to be, reminding the superintendent and, just giving him some of these stats, but also reminding him of the incredible staff that we have, the teachers that we have, the administrators and our students that we have that need our support, that sometimes, just funding is not enough. It's, building those alliances, making sure that we're backing our teachers and our students, letting them know that we're here. And, it's like when you have a family, that no matter what happens, you back that family. Come hell or high water, you're always there. And that's what we need to do, especially today with our teachers, our counselors, and our students. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be with me this evening, to provide me this conversation. I really do. And, your contribution to this conversation has been really enlightening. And also I want to thank Teaching for the Culture for being a safe space for us to have this vital conversation. School Board Member Caprice Edmond in Pinellas County will be hosting a town hall on March 28th at 7:30 p.m. on Teaching for the Culture. Please make sure for you to follow and share this broadcast with our community. Thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your Sunday.